and welcome back to Dicebreaker, where today we're going to go through some of the highlights of Essen Spiel 2021. So stay seated and have a look at what we found.
What do penguins and giant robots have in common? More than you'd think, as it turns out. My favourite game of Essen Spiel 2021 was Iron Forest, the upcoming follow-up to Ice Cool, designer Brian Gomez's delightful dexterity game about flicking penguins around the school. Iron Forest literally adds another level to Ice Cool's fun flickathon. The game introduces a second story to the board that players ping their minuscule pieces around, with each map introducing a set of rooms suspended above the others. The only way up? Launching your piece in an actual real-life launcher and watching it flip and barrel in the air before it crashes back down to earth. It's absolutely as fun as it sounds. Now, penguins are infamously flightless, so obviously there was only one choice when it came to what to replace them with in Iron Forest. That's right, massive robots from the future. Except these massive mechs aren't all that massive, as you'll still be pinging them around with your fingers. They're also quite unstable, wobbling around on circular bottoms like any good robot. Iron Forest is designed as a game for older players than Ice Cool, with more complex rules and a greater number of ways to play than the kid-friendly fish gobbling race. There will be 7 different scenarios in the box, each with a different win condition, whether it's collecting objective markers by passing through doors and dropping through holes on a higher level, a bit like Ice Cool really, or simply just smashing your opponent's robots to bits before they destroy yours. What you do each turn remains mostly the same as in Ice Cool. You flick, ping and propel your wobbly pieces around the board, hoping to outmaneuver your opponent's robots to score points. Here though, you have a whole squad of teetering machines to control, drawing randomly to see which 2 you activate per turn, or sometimes just the same robot twice. Helping you along is a set of ability cards that can be used to repair your damaged robots, reposition for a better shot, and more besides. Honestly though, all of this is overstating what makes Iron Forest so darn fun. It's a game about shooting little robots around the board, dropping them down holes, smashing into others like bumper cars, and firing them into the air from a tube. We played one scenario at Essen Spiel. Each will take about half an hour to complete according to the designer, but I could have easily played for hours on end. Iron Forest will hit Kickstarter next February according to publisher Brain Games. Based on our time with the prototype, I honestly can't wait to see what the finished thing looks like. It was easily my highlight of Essen Spiel 2021, and so far, one of my most anticipated games of 2022.
Hey, it's Lolies, and this is my highlight of Essen Spiel 2021. I will start by saying that I feel like I played pretty much every game at the show. I did lots of loops around every hall every day until I got to the point where I felt like I'd played every game that I was in any way vaguely interested in. So I feel like I have a fairly good idea of what was at the show, and I, gave a lot of things a try. So this is the game that stood out for me the most. It's a game that I actually came across, I think, on the first day, and it was the box art that initially kind of drew me towards it. It's a game called Pachamama by Sit Down Games. It is currently on being crowdfunded on GameFound. So I think as of yesterday, when this video goes live, it will be on GameFound. And if you like the description I'm about to give about this game, why not go and check it out as well? I certainly will be. It's my highlight of Essen 2021, for God's sake. Anyway, so the rough way that this game works is that you are Quechua farmers, I might be pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry, who are exploring the land and are cultivating the land with crops, and when you do that you earn points. It's kind of like Sudoku meets Carcassonne. It's a tile laying game, so when you explore, for example, you're looking to find different colored tiles on the board. You can move around obviously, and you can also try and make guesses as to the kind of crops that will grow in certain areas. And those guesses actually a lot of the time will be informed guesses, because there's certain rules where, for example, if there's a 1 in a certain place, you cannot have a 1 crop in any of the spaces right around that. As well, the different colored tiles that I already mentioned, there can only be between 1 and 5 of a certain color grouped together. So, and that kind of informs your crop decision as well, because the crops works a little bit like Sudoku in that they will be numbered from 1 to 5 in a specific grouping of a color. So if there's a group of blues and you know for a fact there's only going to be 4 of them, you're going to know that the crops will be numbered from 1 to 4. There's a wheel in the game called Pachamama wheel, which initially I was a bit concerned because I was worried that the game, you would quickly kind of know where everything goes and it would become repetitive and you wouldn't be able to replay it. But as it turns out, there will be 20 different scenarios in the game. So I think you would be hard pressed to remember where everything goes in all 20 scenarios. But essentially the Pachamama wheel, what it does is it will, when you give in coordinates of where you are on the map, which will be shown with, I think the side one is animals and the top row is like rainbows and waves and things like that. Quite abstract versions of like nature. Once you give in those coordinates, it will tell you in the Pachamama wheel, depending on which side you kind of slide open, it will tell you what color tile will need to be placed if you're doing an exploring action, or the number crop that will go there if you're doing the make divination action. The game is all about balance. So actually when you reveal a different colored tile, for example, on the board, which you do with the exploring action, you move yourself up on a separate board that's called a diversity track. And it is quite simply a track that tracks all the 4 different colors of tiles in the game, so red, blue, green, and yellow. And you will earn points based on you moving up that track in a fairly equal manner. So you want to not go all the way up with the blues, for example, because you will only ever earn 1 point for that if you don't have anything else on the same level. The way it works essentially is that if I have a blue, up on the next level and I move the green one up to the same level, I will earn 2 points, 1 for each kind of token that I have on the same level. So trying to move them up, all 4 colors, somewhat equally is quite important to earn you the most amount of points. And that kind of idea of being quite equal with how you explore and the levels that you explore comes into the crops as well, because as I mentioned, they're numbered and they're also colored. So for example, the 4 I believe was yellow. If I keep finding a 4 yellow, I'll get lots of points because it will earn me 4 points if I guess it correctly. But it will you get a cube, a colored cube for each crop that you guess correctly where it goes. That's important because you can only ever have 1 of the same color cube in your kind of supply, because eventually you want to make offerings to Pachamama which will earn you points, and to do that you need to have different colors cubes to do that, because the more different color cubes you have to offer her, the more points you get. So it's not always beneficial to always go for the high point crops. It's a really interesting idea. As I said, I was initially kind of taken by the beautiful artwork of the box cover. Also, the game itself looks really good, I have to say. Like, just standing and watching other people play it, I was like, this is really pretty. And the gameplay, although it kind of sounds a bit complicated when somebody explains it, especially when you're not playing it yourself, is actually super simple once you get into it. It's really clever. It's logic, but it's not like super deep, heavy logic. I feel like anyone could really get their head around this quite easily. And yeah, it was, for me, like, I think the most special game that I saw at Essen, and I'm really excited to play some more when it releases properly.
Perhaps the most anticipated board game found at Essen Spiel 2021, Azul Queen's Garden, it's Queen's Garden, not Queen's Gambit, is the 4th entry in what's been a surprisingly popular series about tile laying, of all things. Beginning with the first Azul, released a few years ago, Queen's Garden continues the decorative theme, with players taking the role of royal gardeners, tasked with making Her Majesty's back garden look as beautiful as possible. As in the original Azul, the main mechanics behind Queen's Garden remain to be tile drafting and tile laying, but this title has its own little twist on the formula. Players are still looking to score points by placing tiles in pleasing patterns on their individual boards, but there's a lot more variety in the tiles themselves and how you actually acquire them. Every player takes turns to draft tiles from the game's bag, but are able to take tiles of both matching colour or symbol. The symbols represent the value of each tile and how much it costs to play them on your board, with the highest scoring tiles also being more expensive. Tiles can be purchased using other tiles that match the colour or the symbol. However, players cannot use identical tiles to pay, and they also cannot pick up identical tiles when drafting. This adds a whole new dimension to Azul, as players need to think about the tiles they want to place in their garden and how they're going to pay for them. Which tiles they want will be determined by that round's bonus scoring, which is decided by this neat little wheel which you rotate to select the different tile types, and score by the end of game scoring rules as well. Whilst bonus round scoring is done, well, at the end of each round, players banking on the points earned for the rest of the game scoring will need to hold on until they get their due. But if they're clever enough with their tile placement, then they can really rake in the points, potentially shooting them right to the top of the leaderboard at the 11th hour. This element really makes Queen's Garden incredibly exciting to play, despite it being a game about tile laying, because players are rarely left behind for very long, and the end of game scoring is always a tense moment. It stays true to its roots whilst branching out into new and interesting mechanics, and this is why Azul Queen's Garden is my favourite game of Essen 2021.
Well, those were our picks for Essen Spiel 2021. If you'd like to see more Essen related content, there's plenty more to come, and there's plenty that was already released. So if you haven't seen that yet, go back and watch it. You can obviously check out more of us on here on youtube.com/Dicebreaker. Give us a subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of future videos as well. Thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely day. Bye!